Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we are talking about planetary energies, and we're talking about Pluto in retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. So let's get us some hard dates and some information, and then I'm going to pull some angel cards at the end to hopefully give us a little bit deeper insight into Pluto in retrograde. So let's see. Pluto started in pre-shadow January 4th. It went into full retrograde April 27th. It will turn direct October 2nd, and it will leave post shadow on January 25th. So Pluto's in this retrograde of this really stable earthy sign of Capricorn. So this is going to be kind of the basics of what's going on. And Pluto in retrograde can bring up a lot of kind of revolutions in our lives and kind of bringing kind of that phoenix rising from our ashes and kind of like being kicked by karma is the number one thing that I think I have been dealing with clients and helping them work through it is karma is coming. And it's kind of like a good way to kind of clear out the old karma that we used to deal with, maybe incorrectly or not that well, and kind of bringing it into a new, better, stronger way of dealing with our own karma or things that we've brought into our lives or things that we've done wrong so we can fix, correct, and change them so we can keep going forward. Kind of one of the things that comes up is a lot of people have strong emotions or strong fears that will come up and they really can't explain them or really express them. And that's when you know it's Pluto. Pluto comes up and kind of manipulates our sense of being a victim or our sense of kind of like not things not working out. It can also kind of bring out changes and kind of like in a weird, strange way, kind of put us in weird predicaments that's going to show us what we've done wrong. Kind of that karma side of it is like we're going to be in things that's like, oh my gosh, I remember being on the other side of the fence last time, or I remember being on the other side of this part of it. And so now I get to feel it as the victim or as the person that feels like they're being taken advantage of. This is kind of just kind of an interesting way to do it. Pluto also kind of really affects our logical thinking. And so it can kind of make us little fuzzy headed or kind of like, I'm not really sure if I'm making the right decision. Where normally we would be like clear cut, like this is what we know we have to do and this is what we don't have to do. It's going to kind of bring it in that fuzzy state of like, where do we go with this or how do we deal with this? One of the major parts about Pluto going into retrograde, Pluto is the very last planet. The further out they go, the more people and more countries are going to be affected by this. And one of the things that I've really noticed is seeing things over the last few weeks to a few months since Pluto's been in retrograde of people dealing with things coming up. Sometimes it's relationships of karma, things that will just kind of blurt out of their mouth and they're kind of like, oh wait, I didn't really want to say that part, kind of overwhelming them at times. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So they can now clear this up. And if they don't, what they're doing is kind of just adding more negative karma on top of that. Instead of clearing it up and kind of taking it out, it's kind of like, let's cover that up, let's put it off to the side and let's not deal with it. The thing is, though, it's going to come up. It's going to be like that phoenix. It's going to rise from the ashes and affect them again and again and again until they clear it up. So one of the things that is really interesting is kind of when you kind of realize that this is happening on like a global scale for all of us. When Pluto's in retrograde, you're going to see a lot of truth coming out with people, especially in political arenas, in like stars or people well known. You're going to see like people on talk shows that you talk about, or watch. It's kind of like they're just kind of blurting out things, and when they say it, you can almost like watch the reaction of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. And that's kind of the interesting part. It's kind of like their heart is coming forward. Everything that they've been pushing down is kind of just like, we have got to say the truth. We've got to blurt this out so we can bring this up to a new healed state, kind of bringing that death of this part of them out so that we can bring it to a new healed state, kind of that rising from the ashes part and kind of kicking that little karmic booty and kind of getting some better ways of dealing with things. If you allow Pluto in retrograde, it will steer you in the right directions. It will push you that right direction. And sometimes over a Pluto retrograde cycle, because it's for several months, you're going to have this come up over and over and over again. And you're going to see the same people kind of having the same issues. It may be in their family life, and then this is at work, and this is with their friends, and with their neighbors, and it's like, wait, where is this all coming from? It's because they keep pushing it down, going, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm afraid of this. Instead of like, let's let it out, let's talk about it, let's deal with it and move forward. One of the things I think is really important to know is Pluto in retrograde is going to affect your abilities. It is going to affect your abilities. There's no way around it. It's going to affect your abilities. Now, I will tell you that sometimes it makes people's abilities kind of like shut down in a way. So it's going to affect it that way. It's kind of like not going to be as strong. And then you may also have people's abilities just like literally go into retrograde, like drive, like boom, here we go. Their abilities are going to be pushing them forward and moving them further and further. One of the things I think is interesting, that the more psychic you are, or more psychic abilities you have or connected to, that is going to come up even stronger. One of the things that I think is really interesting, I saw this a lot in the last few Pluto and retrograde cycles, is a lot more espionage, a lot more suicides coming up, people that can't hang on to that anymore, and they're so afraid of keep going that they'll end up committing suicide in some way. So I think that's like a really interesting thing. It's not a healthy way to do it. There's a much easier way, but I'll tell you that a lot of times it happens more and more, and especially during Pluto and retrograde, you'll see a spike in suicides, death. It's one of those kind of this kind of interesting energy with that, of people that would normally be able to deal with something are unable to or unwilling to change, and so sometimes they'll end up doing things that they didn't even expect, and sometimes it's more unconscious than it is a conscious thought. Signs. There are always signs that we should make changes. There are changes all around us all the time. I think it's really funny when people go, no, 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 I want this perfect, easy life. And I think, wow, that just sounds really boring. It's one of those, maybe you don't want a really hectic life all the time, but when things come up, it allows you to make changes and make corrections to your life and change how you're dealing with things so things can change around you. If you were in the same spot today that you're going to be in 5 years, you're not going to be happy. Abundance. Pluto can bring in a lot of abundance, and can, because it's amping up our abilities, we can use those abilities to amplify what we want to bring into our lives. What is it that we want to bring in? And an abundance of kind of clearing out the old stuff as well. Kind of like, let me deal with what's in front of me. Let me unpack that. And use that energy of Pluto to kind of bring it to a new healed state, so I can bring it forward and make a new choice this time. If it's going to be a new choice, I'd rather make a new one instead of an old one. Body care. This is a really great time to kind of step up in your body care. And I would say one of the most important things to do is a meditation. Meditation during this time frame can give you great insight into what you want to bring into your life, what do you want to bring up in your life, and where do you want to go? What is it that you want to draw into yourself? We may even have a lot of past incarnations or past life stuff coming up with Pluto in retrograde. And it's one of those, it's important to kind of keep that energy going in the right direction and kind of taking care of ourselves, kind of what's coming forward so we can continue to move forward. Make sure you are explaining your fears or talking about your fears the best you can. That's one of the best things to do during this time frame. Serenity. Really, this is your meditation card. Serenity and peace, and working through what you need to be working through. A lot of times people look at problems and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so big, I'll never be able to fix it, or I'll never be able to change it. And usually once they just push the energy of, okay, I'm willing to deal with it, I'm willing to work through it now, it kind of just falls all into place. But because they were pushing the wrong energy, or they were like, oh, this is going to be really bad, this is going to be really bad, it's going to make it harder, it's going to make it bigger. It's almost like you're kind of giving the energy away to it. But when you go, okay, let's get to work, let's clear up some karma, let's clear up some past life stuff, I'm ready for my abilities to amp up, this is all going to just like kick into high gear and really change a lot of things for us. I think that is kind of like the best part of any retrograde cycle, is to allow ourselves to keep pushing this energy forward and to keep moving forward. If you have been dealing with a lot of Pluto energy during this time frame, take a little body care time, take a little time off for yourself, yourself, do some meditations, kind of get your energy in the right direction, and decide what you want to change or modify as you continue to go forward. Always a great thing to do during Pluto in retrograde. I thank you so much for joining me, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.